Good evening. My name is Brent Schimek. I'm the Activities Administrator at Deer River High School, and I am the winner of the State Award of Merit. I was born in south central Minnesota, in between two small towns of Easton and Delavan. I'm one of 4 children. I have an older sister and 2 younger brothers. And being on the farm, there's always a lot to do. We were always either doing something around the farm and helping out, or we were playing a sport. With all the neighborhood kids in a rural area, jump on a bike or a 3-wheeler or something and get together. And our parents wanted us to be very active in school. Luckily, in Delavan High School is a very small school that's now a part of Blue Earth area. We got to do a lot of different things and participate in a lot of things. So we were all in band and choir and FFA and played 3 sports, and we got to participate in a lot of activities. I graduated from Delavan in 1984 and moved on to the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities campus. I chose that campus because it was a land-grant college and I wanted to go into agriculture at the time. So I majored in animal science my first year and a half there, and then became interested in the education field after I took a coaching class, a physical education class credit with Leo Lewis, who was one of the wide receivers for the Minnesota Vikings at the time, who was working on his doctorate program, and that sort of turned my educational career into working on 2 majors. So I ended up with an animal science and an ag education degree coming out of the University of Minnesota. Lucky to get an opportunity to help out with the football program under John Gutekunst, who was the head coach at the time. Sort of learned the college game and coaching from that end of it. Right before I got out of college, I got assigned to Columbia Heights High School, where I got my first coaching opportunity and ended up being the defensive coordinator for the Columbia Heights High School. Had a lot of memorable experiences there. I started my activities director at USC High School in Wells, Minnesota. I got interested after coaching. I started off in MnIAAA, Minnesota, where I was an ag teacher and a coach for 6 years, and then moved to Blue Earth area to start the ag program there, where I taught for 5 years and was football coach, and got the opportunity to apply and be the activities director and community ed director at USC High School in Wells, and also the head football coach. Main reason I got into being an activities director was that I really liked working with kids in all programs and building programs. I was fortunate enough to work as a teacher in 2 different programs, which I got to start from scratch. And then I got to coach football along with that. Great joy to have kids come in after a game in my office and say, this is what happened last night, or out at the track, or out at the field, or out at the court, and things that they're struggling with or things that they're happy with. And I think that's the biggest enjoyment that I have. Well, one of the most humorous ones was probably the first lesson that I learned as a coach, actually, from my activities director at the time, which was up in MnIAAA, which was Chuck Sagadol. And Chuck had been an athletic director and activities director for a very long time. And after I signed my first contract, and it was probably my first month of school, he came up to me and said, Schimek, you're now also our speech coach. And I said, really, how's that work? And he says, there's that thing on the bottom of your contract says duties as assigned. And so I said, okay, we'll take a shot at that. And I did that for 2 years, but the first meet I had to go to was in Wadena, Minnesota, and I load my 15, 20 kids off the bus and we go into a speech meet. And they said, well, all the coaches also have to judge this meet. And by the way, you're assigned dramatic poetry. So I don't think there's too many happy speech candidates that day about how the results maybe came out, but best advice I could give them is to really reach out and get help. I had some great people help me when I started out that are all retired, and like Ed Rundell and Dick Maher and Tom Mahoney, and then once I got started, the ones that were with me at that time, like Mindy Chevalier and John Werke and Jeff Baran, and then even today with up in the Iron Range with Keith Turner and Josh Lampa and Jimmy James. I mean, you got to reach out and use the resources that you have, which the MnIAAA offers. The MnIAAA is an opportunity for us to get together and support each other. Everybody has the same issues, maybe at a different school, different size, different location, different part of the state, but it gives us an opportunity to vent those situations back and forth, and like I said, get ideas and maybe how to handle something, and you're always learning something. You're always learning something from someone. I've been doing this for 24 years, and there isn't a meeting or a conference or something where I don't go to, where I don't get something from my peers that I can take back and use where I'm at. Well, as 24 years as an activities administrator, I certainly didn't get here on my own. There's a lot of people to thank. I've had some very good administrators and superintendents, Matt Gross and Pat Rendell currently, and Joe Acree as a principal, that have always been very supportive of things that have been going on, or programs or ideas that we may have to get better as a school, to get better as a program. I'd also like to thank Dan Johnson and his committee for selection and running this committee of the State Award of Merit and selecting me for this award. And Minnesota State High School League, currently serving on the board of directors there. It's given me a great opportunity to learn more about how the state works and how all the regions across this wide state tie together. I also like to thank my parents. I mean, they're the ones that instilled in us 4 kids a very strong work ethic. I started off at USC, as I said earlier, and I had for 10 years there, activities assistant that was Sharon Sternagel, who really kept me on the straight and narrow and taught me the trade, and up to now where I have Lee Ayers as my administrative assistant and does an excellent job. Then, of course, my family. I have 4 children. I have 2 daughters and 2 sons that grew up as a coach's kid and activities director's kid. And they were always there to help me at the games, or mow lines, or do anything that it took to spend some time with Dad. And of course, he always had keys to the school. So, and then of course, last, my wife Patty. You know, it always said that every coach and every activities director needs a good spouse, and she's a coach's spouse. She's an AD director's spouse. There's a lot of hours that she spent alone raising our kids, and she was always very supportive and helped me in my 24 years get to where I am today.